Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk, guys. It is a third consecutive draw for this Napoli team, guys, and we just can't catch a break. We are in our crisis period. Having said that, that I think is from both a results perspective, from a numbers perspective in terms of how many players we have available. But at least today, I saw a team that was fighting, that reacted to an early goal from Lazio. Again, this is a team that beat us twice this season. So if you had asked me 5 minutes after the game started, when we were 1-0 down, if you had asked me if I would be happy with the draw, I would have said yes. And I want to focus my energy on that rather than thinking that by the 87th minute we were uh we were 2-1 up. I usually start with comments from members, but I wanna highlight this recent comment here from Matthias saying Conte was overcoached today. And I think to some extent, yes. I think it's hard for Conte to be judged in this match because he was forced into that 3-5-2 formation. He had only a few days to really prepare the team for it. I think what saved us today was the fact that for 2 months this summer and for the first few weeks of this season, we were playing under this formation. We did prepare these players to some extent to play with 3/5 at the back. And so it's not like he had to do a crash course in a 5-day period, but still a few months passed since those days, and I think we saw in the first 5-10 minutes how much this Napoli team struggled to remember the distances between departments, how to connect with the different players. Then gradually, I think Napoli was able to get into the game, get into the rhythm. Raspadori was very, very good today. He was key, and he was the right guy to score because I think, obviously this change of formation was done to accommodate his characteristics since we're out of players in attack, really. So, you have to play Raspadori, and out of all people in the team, he's the one that scores. Huge boost to the team. The team starts feeling confident that, oh, you know what? Maybe things can, they can work out. We've got Raspadori and he's playing well, but that fizzled out towards the final 20 minutes when the players were completely done. The midfield, I can't blame them. They've been playing every single minute. They were to the floor, guys. They were to the floor. Mazzocchi and Buongiorno had to be subbed out, and ultimately, whilst the Buongiorno substitution, he's just come back from injury and all that, and I think it's the right call. And Politano came on and he did bits on that right flank, um, instrumental for the goal. In the end, when Mazzocchi couldn't hold on for 5 more minutes, that's what killed the game. And he might not have been on the field, but I think for the third consecutive game, we lost because of Mazzocchi. Because had this guy had the fitness to play a third consecutive or a second consecutive game, then we would have had a proper defender on that left-hand side and not Politano adapted. And most importantly, we would have still had Politano on the right-hand side, who was causing Lazio problems. But obviously, then you remove this problem from Lazio because Politano had to go cover Mazzocchi, who had to be subbed off. And yeah, but look, I think maybe that's a little harsh. What I think Conte could have done was also maybe Um, was also maybe, bring on someone to help Politano, so a fresh midfielder. So yes, okay, you move Politano over there. Um, Maybe a fresh midfielder to help him out there, or you could have brought on Engonje, right, and put him on the right hand. Once you remove Politano and you put him on the left, then put Engonje maybe on the right, so that you keep Lazio, a little bit back. Guys, I think there is a slight issue with the camera. So what I will do is and it stopped at like kind of the worst moment. So what I'll do is I'll do the tactical analysis, and in the meantime, I'll try to fix my camera, but I won't be, this big issue at the on the screen. So let me just see what is going on there with the camera. But in the meantime, what I can do is go over some of the key moments of the game, guys, and I have no idea why it's starting from that moment there. This is where I want to start the tactical analysis, guys, and apologies that you don't see me right now, but I'm doing some things to my camera in the background. So, first of all, guys, this moment here with Rachmani, he was just trying to, head the ball, and there was no one that he could actually get the ball to. Right, we've got the camera back up and working, guys. I call that multitasking. But look, he's got no one available for him. I mean, when that ball bounces, there's three Lazio players in that area, in that position there, and no one that he could have really passed the ball to. I mean, it would have been a big ask for him to go find Lobotka. We'll see just how far Lobotka actually is from another perspective. And then once Isaacsen gets the ball, he's thinking back to that amazing goal he scored against us in the Serie a few months ago. And he's like, you know what? Why not? Why not? Maybe lightning does strike twice. And he pulls off another incredible goal, to the point that I thought, when he missed at one point later in the match, I thought it's incredible that this guy missed. I mean, he's always long, long pass. Um, and for whatever reason, guys, we were just caught completely out of shape. I mean, obviously, the reason is the fact that we don't have enough experience playing this formation, and it took us a while. It took us a while, guys. I know that the camera is having some issues. I don't know why. So maybe the cable is a bit stretched out here. Let me adjust it a little bit. But yeah. Hand, and I'm getting a message that my camera is not getting recognized. So that's no bueno, guys. Let me see if I can plug it into another USB socket. This is not ideal, but yeah, no, I don't think I can plug it into another USB socket. So let's try again with this one. And hopefully it doesn't keep lagging on me. But look, Raspadori could have done a few things wrong here. Instead, he does the right decision to take his time and really, make sure that he picks out a clean pass for Lukaku, and that's important because all right, guys, I think I might be back. I think I might be back. Do we have do you guys still see me? Do you guys still see me? I think I might be back, guys. Let me know in the chat if you guys can see me. I had to reboot the computer. Um, so apologies to everybody, guys. I am like Jesus though, okay? So, I am back from the dead, okay? Unlike Duolingo. Guys, did you see Duolingo died this week? I don't know if you guys saw that. Now, I'm not trying to divert from the fact that I let you down for 10 minutes, but I just want to say I'm not the only one that died this week, all right? You have to think that this stuff can happen. This stuff can happen. Apologies, guys. We are uh hopefully we are gonna be able to keep going with the live. Where was I, guys? Where was I? But yes, I'm back. I'm back. Um, right. Before I get to the analysis, we were way past this point, guys. I wanna stop and give some love to the people in the chat. Unfortunately, I lost all chats before this comment. So whatever you guys said before, it is now deleted from the universe. I'm not sure if there was anything before that or if that is the first comment actually of the chat. This is just the first one that appears in my list. I think that's actually the first one. But yeah, Lewis says the sad reality is that we need more depth. The Scudetto race is still on. I 100% agree. Look, we might even have potentially increased our advantage over Inter because they play against Juventus away from home, Derby d'Italia. It's potentially a +1. Okay, maybe Inter win, but it's against Juventus. I get blaming Conte for subbing Marin, but let's be honest here. Conte is working miracles with this already thin squad, carrying an amount of injuries as Dom. Yeah, 100%, man. Look, I think where he could have done things differently is that I think some of the midfielders were a bit tired. Maybe, the guy that was brought in 2 months ago, almost, or a month ago, Billing. I mean, it's incredible that he's not yet even made a debut. But I do think that overall we are quite lucky with this draw. I do agree that it was way more in favor of Lazio today. Um, and let me see. Payments as the lack of quality is showing. We're overperforming, and Conte is doing an outstanding job, but we lack quality to create chances, and small mistakes will cause us. You cannot consistently avoid them. I think, yeah, the only player with real quality today was Raspadori. This is the only player that I think is benefiting from this change of formation. But regardless of this change of formation, even with the 4-3-3, over the last two games with Roma and Udinese, we did show severe lack of quality. And let's see some more comments. Aaron says, "Is it? Yeah." Um, I'm going through all the comments where it showed that I froze. But yeah. Um, let's see. Let's see. Need Juve to draw tomorrow. They're the king of draws. Would still leave us 1 point ahead. Exactly. Look, if there's one team that you think can pull off a draw at least against Inter, it's Juventus. And Juventus now, even more than when we played against them, has a lot more at stake now, because back then when we played Juventus, Italy was still in a good position with potentially 5 spots for the Champions League, but it seems like Spain now is going above us or has actually passed us in the ranking. And so now teams cannot rely on that fifth spot. They need to think about top four. So with Lazio getting a point today, with Bologna and Milan still having to actually play their game, it's with Fiorentina doing well relatively. They're so up and down. But Juventus cannot just sit back and think, oh, fifth spot is good enough. They have to gun for that fourth spot. So they will be doing everything, and Motta's job is on the line here. I mean, if you lose against Inter, you slip down in the table, it could be curtains for Motta. It really could be. Um, so yeah, Aaron M says Clara was sold because he was going to exercise the law that allows him to buy out his own contract and leave for free. Is that what Manna was referring to by blackmailing? It seems so. There is this law that basically, after your 3 years at the club, um, if you feel like if you think that the club has not treated you well, then you can kind of buy yourself out of the contract depending on your salary, and his salary being super low, that fee would have been low and he would have recovered that money anyway with his new salary at PSG, so it wouldn't have been that big of an issue. Now, you could say, well, why don't more players do this kind of thing? Because you get kind of put on a blacklist. So the problem is that if you exercise this with one club, what's stopping you from doing it with the other club that you go to? And so no club then wants to take that kind of baggage, or or someone that could threaten them with that. It's easy to do it again if you did it once. Um, and by the way, it's not also that simple. Like, you have to prove things in court that you were not getting treated very well. So it can be expensive. It can be, first of all, it is still expensive to buy yourself out, and the whole legal thing can be expensive. What was playing to Kvara's advantage was the fact that PSG were going to get him no matter what. And so all those expenses would have been covered with the new salary at PSG. But imagine like a random player, like even someone, like, I don't know, random name in our squad, right? Someone like Rachmani, he can't just go ahead and do that, because when he then goes to a new club, I mean, they're not going to pay him significantly more money that covers the expense of having exercised that right. Let's say you have to pay 10 million euros out of your own pocket. That's money that he'll make in 3 years. Instead, Kvara would be able to make that money in 1 year in PSG, right? So, I mean, it wouldn't have been maybe the worst kind of issue for Kvara. So it was a very particular situation where his salary was so low now, so the fee that he would have had to pay is not that high, and the salary that he would get is so much higher that it would have been, easy for him to just shrug that off as an accounting error by the end of his year. So a rounding error, let's say. Uh, but yeah, that's why it doesn't happen more often. But yeah, that's what happened. Let's go through the analysis of the second half, guys. That's where we left off earlier. Or let's finish off the first half, and really, like, I wanted to point out the struggles that we were having. So it was extremely difficult because you had our midfielders so far away from each other. You had Lobotka dropping in between the two center backs, and Anguissa and McTominay, who's not even on the screen here. I tried to circle where he more or less would have been. They're right next to Lukaku up top, and you have the wingers super wide. But it just felt a little bit, like there's one team on the left and one team on the right, and the only person that could have made the link between them was Raspadori, but it was just too easy for Lazio to break those or intercept those passing lines, because really there was, those two in front of Lobotka, and those two next to Raspadori, and yeah, it was hard for Lobotka to find him. In these cases, when you decide to empty the midfield, it's not like it's the wrong choice. You can do that. You overload the flanks, but what happens in that case is that you got to make sure that the ball goes very quickly to the flanks so that you circumnavigate the circle of Lazio players and you immediately go down the flanks. But who did we have down the flanks? Mazzocchi on one side, Di Lorenzo on the other. Not exactly people that then can whip in incredible crosses or get past the final man, or we don't have the sort of let's say Hakimi type player, or Perisic that Conte had in his Inter days. We really lack that. And also, what you need to do in these situations is you have to pass the ball very quickly from left to right. You get this Lazio circle to move up and down like this. At some point, they don't move up and down fast enough, and it creates a gap either centrally for someone like Raspadori, the circle starts stretching a little bit, or they don't cover the other side fast enough. And so whoever's on that side now has a lot of space, and it's very hard for Lazio then to recover. But we were just not passing the ball fast enough like that. In the second half, however, we started pretty well. In fact, we did get one moment with Mazzocchi where he did take initiative when he received the ball and crossed the ball. It went to Di Lorenzo, who hit it on Anguissa. We also got more Raspadori and Lukaku interaction, but Lukaku with his right foot, put a lot of power in this shot, but it was never going to beat the goalkeeper, not with his right foot. But if I go back to the previous slide, Osimhen here would have been through on goal. He would have let that ball slide and he would have used his pace to beat the defender. Lukaku here didn't have that today. We saw that at other times this season where he did show bursts of pace, and maybe he would have used his body to hold off the defender. We saw it, for example, with Milan. But the whole team is gassed. So instead of trying that, he just takes on the shot. But, I think had it been earlier this season, I think Lukaku would have fancied his chances and tried to beat the defender there. But look, Lazio as well, they had a lot of good chances. Like this one from Isaac Sen. Again, surprised he didn't score because he seems to, score every single time he plays against Napoli. And then a key moment in the game is Politano comes on for Buongiorno. Brave decision by Conte, an attacking-minded decision to some extent, and it proved to be key. But look, when we look at the goal, which happens just 3 minutes later, look at the position of Raspadori here, right? He is the one that is in this playmaker position, and he has to drop so deep to be able to get a touch of the ball, because we don't have any midfielders that can really, find him, because McTominay and Anguissa are so high up, as they are with the 4-3-3 actually, but maybe even more so this time. And he does something very smart, right? Like the ball eventually goes to Politano, and he hides behind Guendouzi when Politano has the ball. Guendouzi is looking at Politano, and he doesn't know exactly where Raspadori is going to come up behind him. And all of a sudden, he picks the right moment. Boom. He stops his run. Guendouzi goes a little bit too far. All of a sudden, you become available again, and you're in that pocket of space now that is actually interesting, which is a completely new area of the field compared to where he was at the start. So he creates this for himself because he runs into the space and runs in very intelligently, not in front of Guendouzi, where it's easy to see his movement, but behind him. Behind him so that he can then surprise Guendouzi with a little shimmy, and all of a sudden now you can play a fast one too. And here, guys, Anguissa does very well to get back on side because look, at this moment here, he is offside. But then by the time the pass is played, he's very sharp to be just on the right part of the field. And look, the ball gets played first time Raspadori to Anguissa, Raspadori to then Politano, who makes a good run into the space. The ball cuts back to Raspadori, and there's a bit of good fortune here. It hits a Lazio player who's down on the ground. The ball bounces up. It hits then Marusic on his foot. Look, this goal was pretty lucky. Okay, and even the first one that we had, whilst it was a good goal, with the whole link-up play between Raspadori and Lukaku, it did start with a Lazio mistake, with their goalkeeper not playing the ball long enough. And Lazio could have had an equalizer much sooner with this incredible strike from Zaccagni with the scissor kick. And look, Zaccagni is such a class player, guys. I mean, he is really their their guy, and we struggled. Our defender struggled against him, and then this graphic comes up. And for those of you that don't speak Italian, it says goals scored by substitutes in the first 24 games of the season. And you have this ranking or this list with Lazio first with 13 goals scored by their substitutes, miles ahead of second place Atalanta with 9, third place Juventus with 7, fourth Milan with 7. Obviously, I want to see the full list because I'm pretty sure that Napoli would be way down at the bottom because we don't have any impactful substitutions. We had that one goal with Raspadori against Verona, and I cannot think of that many other moments where a substitute came on and made a difference. Maybe Neres with a few goals, but my gut feeling is that it was more assists that he would do when he would come on. Um, so yeah, and look, there's something about this Lazio team and the way that Baroni coaches, and that's why there was a comment way earlier in the live that said that Conte was outcoached by Baroni, and this is where you see Baroni's skill. He's a good coach because you have to be a good coach to have your bench make such a strong impact, right? And this reminds me a little bit of Spalletti, where he would bring on Elmas and Simeone and Raspadori, and they would do bits for us. Now, Lazio don't have maybe the starting 11 to sustain a title fight, but when your bench is that effective, you can definitely aim for top four. And Lazio's bench is more impactful than Napoli's, I think, or at least is better trained, better utilized than Napoli's. And obviously, then the goal comes, and it comes with Mazzocchi having to be replaced, Politano shifting up to left wing back, Rafa Marin makes a debut finally. But there was also this moment here where the ball gets played. Juan Jesus does what he's been doing all season, which is to try to anticipate the pass, okay? But this time he doesn't get his foot in front of the ball. The Lazio player defends it very well, okay? And not only that, but Juan Jesus falls trying to win the ball, and all of a sudden now Lazio are breaking, okay? And look, this pass is initially intended for one of the players, and then instead it goes to Zaccagni, who passes it to Dia, who then scores a pretty good goal against Meret. I mean, he finds the exact little corner of the net that he needs to find. And if I'm not mistaken, guys, this is the same Dia that scored a very good goal against us with Salernitana in the year that we won the Scudetto. Two eventually draw the game against us. Now, for those of you that are superstitious, for those of you that are superstitious, I'm seeing a lot of parallels there with Dia at the edge of the box, curling it past Meret, equalizes a game at the very end. Maybe, just maybe, this is a sign of things to come for how the Scudetto race will end up. Who knows? Who knows, guys? But the resemblance is there. Resemblance there. Now, guys, I will go to the player ratings, but first I want to get to some comments. Yeah, happy that Buongiorno looked most like himself today. Yeah, Buongiorno was one of our best players. Marin has to go. Nathan is way better backup. Guys, how can we judge Marin in 5 minutes? The goal was not even his fault. The goal was that Juan Jesus lost his duel. I mean, the guy has been incredible, and he had Retegui in his pocket against Atalanta, but now he's on his 10th, 12th game in a row, and he's starting to maybe get tired himself and is not so um, fresh, and maybe doesn't reach the ball in time as much as he was able to do earlier. He lost his duel. We were out of position. Politano cannot be defending like that. He probably look. Politano cannot give Dia the option to go on his left foot. Dia is a very much one-footed player, and a more experienced defender, maybe even Mazzocchi, would have known to cover that, but Politano leaves that open to him, and he's just not used to it, right? And this is the issue of putting players out of their position, and we pay the price. So yeah, look, but he on the right hand side is a lot better. He's a lot more used to the even the players that he has to come up against, because let's not forget, like, these guys, they study who they might come up against, and probably Politano did not think that he would be coming up against Dia on their right hand side. Dom Apuzzo says this result isn't the one we hoped for, but to be honest, drawing to Lazio after this performance feels like a lucky outcome. Yeah. Not a fan with how you can negotiate with players still under contract. Can't do that here in the USA. Tampering, we call it. Yeah. Um, I'm also not a huge fan. I'm of the idea actually that because things are so competitive between clubs, there should not be a winter transfer season, because I mean, imagine you go to a rival, like, that cannot be the case. And the fact that you've been negotiating a few months before, you could be compromising the team all the way back since October, potentially. Um, so I'm not a huge fan of mid-season transfers. I think they should happen in the month of August, 1 month. Okay? They just from August 1st to August 31st, so 2 months after the season ends, that makes sure that you can do the negotiations in June and July, not start all the way in May or April, where again you can compromise a season by distracting a player. You do it June and July. You do everything in 1 month in August, and then or maybe you do it in July. You stop it. You have your preseason trainings in peace. That's your squad. That's it. I don't know if this is doable, guys, but I think this whole thing of negotiating mid-season, yeah, not great. But look, it is what it is. It's like that in other sports as well. Like, for example, in F1 or whatever, like, people move between, they don't move between teams mid-season, but negotiations happen. But yeah, look, guys, there's a lot of comments. There's a lot of comments here. I want to try to get to as many as possible. How do you feel about the possibility of Osimhen for Højlund and Garnacho. I don't think that Man United would give us both Højlund and Garnacho for one player, for Osimhen, especially since they value Garnacho 70 million and Osimhen's release clause is around that mark. So it just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. And I'm not a huge fan of Højlund. I think he's still a bit raw. I think he has the potential to be a good striker, but still very, very raw. He did good in the Serie A, but I would go for the one playing in Lisbon, Gyökeres, or however you pronounce his name. That guy is a machine. So I would go for that. And that's why I think, and that's what I think we should aim for. Um, yeah, we have to face competition from top clubs for him, and he might have ambitions to go to the Premier League. But um, look, we've got the money, right? Which is maybe something that, and we've got the necessity because we can't be with Lukaku next year. We have to start now planning a little bit longer term. Lukaku's fine for 1 year. You need something quick and ready. But next year we can build something a bit more for the future. Um, so yeah, 4 goals scored by the subs, says Aaron. Yeah, not great when you consider a team like Lazio 13. I mean, it's a huge impact, more than 3 times. Let me go to my player ratings, guys. Now you'll see a lot of green here, not super high, but I gave pretty much everybody above above the 6, right? 6 means that it was very, very average. I think these players went a step above because they were in a new formation. They recovered the game down from 1-0. And look, yeah, they conceded in the end, and maybe they didn't create a lot of chances. But what do you expect from these players? They are playing really now in such a dire situation. Um, New formation against a team that's strong. They've been playing 90 minutes every week. I understand that we don't have more than one game a week, but I don't remember who said this, but a a coach, maybe it was even Rudy Garcia, said it is less tiring for a player to play 70 minutes today and 70 minutes in 3 days and 70 minutes in another 3 days than it is to play 90 today and 90 in a week's time. So do the math yourself, okay? Obviously, player A has played more minutes, but your body can recover very quickly after running for an hour. Every extra 10 minutes, it doesn't take arithmetically the same time. It's exponentially more harder to recover. So a player that goes off in the 80th minute may need to take an entire extra day more to recover than a player that gets taken off in the 70th minute. An entire extra day just for the extra 10 minutes. I'm not the one inventing this. This is a coach. I can't remember who said this. Okay, and I need to trust that they at least are not speaking nonsense. But I feel like it makes sense, right? Like logically, it makes sense in my head that at some point you you go so far that you start breaking literally the fibers in your muscle. Whereas if you stop at 60 minutes, you don't do that. You don't, there's nothing to then go and recover. Um, Anyone that has worked out, I think, can agree with that sentiment that at some point you just go above your limit and you're sore for the next 3 days. But had you stopped 10 minutes earlier, not. So that means that these players are potentially experiencing more fatigue in their bodies than some of the Inter players who get taken off at the 60th, 70th minute, that maybe have more appearances, but they don't need to do such heavy recoveries after every game. And that's something that never gets brought up. But I think rather than looking at how many games Napoli have, I think we should be taking a look at how many minutes each player has played. And you'll see that these Napoli players have played more minutes than a lot of those Inter ones. A lot of those Inter ones. Now, Conte is one of the main people responsible for this. And that's why I think he deserves a 5. Because if we are in this situation where some of our players are injured and the ones that are on the bench are not ready and they don't make an impact and this and that and the other, I think Conte is a bit to blame here because you need to prepare your team better for the season. You need to make sure that, dude, I mean, it's 6 months into the season. Like, how do you still not trust certain players like Gilmore? I mean, surely Gilmore can come on and play 10, 15 minutes and bring a bit more energy into this team than Anguissa, who was dead the last 15 minutes, right? And I get it, Anguissa is a different type of player, but Gilmore at 100% energy is surely more effective than Anguissa in his last 5% of energy. Maybe, I don't know, but if you want a more physical player, Billing, he's with the club for a month. I mean, it's not rocket science to enter into a team and play. And I'm not saying 90 minutes, but 5, 10 minutes. I mean, dude, come on, you know? And now we play against Como next week. And Como, we struggled against Como at home. It was a tough, 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 tough game. And we won because they tried to be too smart with how they played from the back because they've got Fabregas and they want to be all nice and fancy. But they are also guys that run a lot. They're physical. Nico Paz is a great player, a great little number 10, and we suffer these number 10s. We suffer these guys that get into the pockets of space like Zaccagni, and it's not going to be easy. This is not a game that is easy on paper. If you know Como, you know that they have all the characteristics to hurt us, especially because they like to play from the back. And the only way that you can really hurt those teams is if you do a lot of pressing. And do we have the energy to do that for 90 minutes? Hopefully, we can strike early against Como. Hopefully, we can do the damage in the first hour of the game, but if we're not ahead by the 60th minute, I really see us struggling in the last 30. I really do. Against a team that moves the ball around fast, that's physical, that you really need to go up and press them for them to make a mistake. It's not going to be easy. I'm not looking forward to that game. But guys, look, I want to highlight Raspadori. We changed formation for him, and so it was crucial that he at least deliver something to us. And he did. And that link up play with Lukaku, it's good. And maybe, just maybe, this is finally, let's say, the right position for him. The only problem is that we don't have the wing backs for it. Di Lorenzo is not a right wing back. Mazzocchi, I mean, he technically is, but he's not got the quality for us. And I think it penalizes guys like McTominay quite a lot. He was basically nowhere, McTominay, today compared to his usual standard. I did give sixes to Juan Jesus and Rahmani. I think Juan Jesus lost a very important duel at the end. He also got a yellow card and all that kind of stuff. And overall, him and Rahmani, I think they struggled today with keeping Isaacson in check. Rahmani with that header, yeah, not his fault. We saw how far away the midfield was. but still, two big mistakes that led to a Lazio goal. Maybe not entirely their fault, but still, definitely not a bad game, but not their best, not their best moments. Great. Let's go. Before we get to the conference, guys, I want to shout out to the people that play the Napoli Predictor game. I'm sorry, I don't really advertise it as much, but we've got this season Brian, who's consistent, man. Every game he's putting his prediction. And then we've got the podium with Napoli Nation, Dan, Bowen, and Helcom. With a consistent haul of points, guys. This month, actually, if you started playing, like for example, Vinny or Jonas, you've actually still got a lot of games this month to beat Brian, okay? Because look, you get 1 point for participation, so that's already a point. But then like you could get points for yellow cards, goals scored. I mean, look, Brian today he got 3 points, one for participation and one for guessing that we would get two yellow cards, and then one for guessing that Anguissa would be getting a yellow card. I don't know how this guy does it. That he predicted that Anguissa would get a yellow card, and he predicted that we would get two. But every time he's got something correct. I mean, he's losing money. He should be betting. But look, had you guessed that Napoli would score 2 goals, you would have been, if you had participated and guessed Napoli 2 goals, that's already a good haul of points. Anyways, I need to schedule a call I need to schedule a call with Brian because he won in January. So I need to schedule a call with him because that's what you get if you win the Napoli monthly game. I think he was the only one that played, but fine. I mean, rules are the rules. So let's see what he has to say about Napoli. But yeah, February is still up for grabs, guys. So if you want to be part of the show, then get playing. If you're a member of a certain level, which I can't even remember which level it is. But yeah, and look, top three, they win a prize at the end of the year, and it's not hard to win points. Between now and the end of the year, with 12, 13 games, you could score like easily, easily, I think 50 points. So you could win a prize. Brian won last year and he won a Napoli shirt and a hat, I think. So yeah, and I think there's prizes all the way down to third place. So get playing, guys. Anyways, let's go to. I know it's not the most convenient thing. You have to go on Google Forms, but what you can do is just do the form, set 20 minutes, and you can do the form for the next 10 games. And there you have it. You just have to book 20 minutes of your time, and you do it once, and you just guess the next 10 games. Let's go to Conte's press conference, guys. So Conte says, they ask him, "Are you satisfied of the performance, disregarding the result?" And he says, "I cannot be satisfied. We knew the type of team that Lazio are, and I think we did have a good game, but obviously we cannot be satisfied because we um, lost 4 points in this stadium at the Olimpico at the 90th minute, first with Roma, then with Lazio. But anyways, this game had a bit of a different feeling because we were coming off the back of 2 losses against Lazio. We had to change formation, so I like the spirit of these players. They always want to beat their obstacle. It's an incredible table that we have where we are first, and even if some people are disappointed, today it was the fourth formation of the season, so it shows that the players are very adaptable and willing to try new things and change. Um, and let's not forget that Lazio and Atalanta are two teams that beat us in the first half of the season, and we at least got 4 points against them now. So, yeah, look, compared to the first half of the season, I think we're not doing worse off in terms of if you compare club for club, because we dropped 4 points against Udinese and Roma, but we gained an extra two compared to the game against Juventus. We gained an extra one compared to this game against Lazio, and we gained three compared to Atalanta, and we gained three compared to Verona. So overall, guys, we are doing good. And pretty much these are all the teams that we dropped points against, we've now faced. The only one that's left is Inter. Um, and with Inter, we drew. Maybe we get a draw again, and if that's the case, then we've actually improved since the first half of the season. And then moving forward, we just have to play against teams that we've beat before, which means obviously we have more to lose. Um, but it also means that in theory, on paper, these are teams that we know how to beat, that we are able to beat. Um, and we just have to go and replicate that. We just have to go and replicate that, you know? And if we go and replicate it, then I think we win the title. If we get a draw against Inter and we do everything else like we did before against those teams, then I think mathematically we are at a very good position. Let's not forget that we didn't lose the last three games, guys. We drew. So this is still a team that is tough to beat. And that says a lot. With everything that's happened, this is a team that's tough to beat. And these draws have come in the final minute. So this is a team that for most of the game was near getting 3 points. And we just need to get it over the line. Now, they ask him about Raspadori, and he says, I want to say my congrats to Raspadori, and he contributed in an important way to not just today, but the points that we have this season. He's a serious kid. He's very concentrated. And in the moments that I've been able to use his characteristics in moments of emergencies, then he's always been present. And yeah, when it was difficult to go find the players down the flank, then he was always available down the middle to, be a little bit of that playmaker, which is what we saw with our analysis. And they ask him if the team has interpreted this formation well or not. And he says, look, you have to really play this formation and work with it every day in training to really see the results. But we are currently out. We currently don't have Neres, Spinazzola, and Oliveira, so we had to adapt. Buongiorno came back, but he had not been playing for 2.5 months. So there's a lot of things that were very borderline today. But the guys were very good because they adapted extremely well. And Anguissa, for example, he did a great game. And he adapted his game a lot compared to how it was in previous years. So all the players are showing that they can be coached, and they're showing a lot of availability. Um, so yeah. And he says today I had to sacrifice Politano for the good of the team, but then he entered the game, and I see him more on the right side than on the left. Mazzocchi asked to be subbed in the 72nd minute, and I kept him on until the 80th. But then I had to find a solution, and it's never easy. But yeah, in the end, the solution was to move Politano to the left, which ultimately I think it cost us because we were super dangerous with Politano on the right, and we just lost that threat. We lost that threat by moving him on the left, and that's not something that Conte says, but read between the lines, no? And it's something that we noticed earlier as well. And he says also, congrats to Rafa Marin, who made his debut. He's a serious kid who trains hard, and he had the satisfaction today to to make a debut, which is another small step for him. Everybody is participating to this journey, and if I can give more spaces to the players, then I would. But sometimes there just is the necessity for others to play. So look, that is Antonio Conte. Let's see if any of the players spoke. Yeah, so Buongiorno spoke. So he says, I'm very happy to have come back and given my contribution today. We knew it would have been difficult, but obviously we're very sad about the fact that we conceded a goal at the end. We have to just keep working. They ask him about the fact that, it's another goal conceded towards the end, and he says, yeah, when you concede a goal, it's clearly because something didn't go right. Maybe there was also a little bit of bad luck, but we're trying to make sure that we get all the details right, and eventually, that will lead us to a win. And we just need to keep working. And there's definitely a bit more disappointment with how the game went rather than satisfaction about getting a point. They ask him about the physical drop of the team towards the end. And he says that sometimes it just the inertia of the game changes, and that affects things a lot. For example, against Udinese, it's one of the games where we played the most, where we ran the most. So it's not that we were tired against Udinese, but it's just that the inertia changed, and when the inertia changes, then it may seem like you are more tired because you're seen running around more and not getting to the second balls and all that. But sometimes it's not that you're out of shape. It's just that the inertia has changed in the game. And they ask him if he feels like a leader and how he's doing physically, and he says that he's always, naturally a bit of a leader, and he sacrifices himself for the team, and he is happy with the work that he's done with the staff. It was not an easy injury to overcome. He's had to do like a mini preseason again, and yeah, he's going to continue on this trajectory. So, guys, that is the conferences, guys. And I just want to end the live with with this, guys. I want to end the live with not specifically that, but with looking at the table, guys, and seeing that we are still first, still 2 points above Inter, 5 above Atalanta, okay? And a lot of points above fifth place, right? Potentially 10 if Juventus win. I mean, we gotta say Forza Juve tomorrow. But even if Juventus win, we are 10 points ahead of Juventus. So crucially, guys, the Champions League is relatively safe. This was important not to lose against Lazio, because then we would have been on 55 and Lazio at 48. 7 points is not a lot. 7 points is not a lot. And we would have had to, look back on, oh my God, are we going to get sucked into a Champions League you know, fight here, but we've kept the gap with the guys behind us to 10 points, and so we can now do a mini sprint towards the end of the season where we just focus on the top. But look, tomorrow it's all about that Forza Juve, which I can't believe I'm saying. But they've got 2 wins in a row now in the league. Let's look at sort of their recent form with Juventus. So let's see. Where is it? I don't know why it's showing like this. But yeah, I cannot see. Let's see. Juventus past games. So they won. There we go. That's a nicer view. They won against PSV. They won against Como. They won against Juventus, and then yeah, they lost against Benfica, and to us that was not a good moment for them. Let's say the end of January was not good, but they've started February on the right foot. And the annoying thing is that they might be looking at that PSV game and they might get distracted versus Inter, who finally has a moment to rest, by the way. Um, so they might be looking at that, but look, they cannot lose points against Inter because, as I said, that fifth spot is not going to be good enough for Juventus come the end of the season. They have to think about getting into the Champions League through the main door. Through the main door, guys. So they have to go out and at least get a point against Inter. Otherwise, Lazio starts slipping away. So, yeah. And how funny would it be if Inter drop points tomorrow against Juventus in in a moment in time, um, uh, in a moment in time where they finally have more or less a week to rest, right? They didn't have any midweek games. So how funny would it be if when they finally get that 1 week rest that they so wanted, they drop points? That would be poetic, guys. That would be very poetic. But anyways, guys, I will end it there. I hope you guys liked the second half of the match. The first half was a disaster. My camera was not working. The microphone stopped. My computer froze. I had to reboot the computer. Somehow, you guys kept the faith. You guys kept the faith, and not all of you dropped out. A lot of you. The live was, at its last breath. There were like 20 of you that stayed through all that, but those 20, let me know one day if we ever meet that you were part of those 20. I will offer you a drink because you trusted that I would reboot my computer, that I would come back, that it would work smoothly the second time round, and it did. Look, guys, sometimes technology happens, right? I'm not in a professional studio or anything like that, so sometimes the equipment will fail me, but there's nothing that I can do. I can just pray that things go well, right? And then that's the thing about doing things live. It's easy to make all these great YouTube videos when you have time to get every single word right. And if there's any technical issues, you can restart it, you can edit, you can put a nice overlay on top. But when you're doing a live, guys, this stuff happens. But thank you for staying. It means a lot. Anyways, I think it's time to go for dinner. It's 9:40 p.m. here. Enjoy your weekend, guys. It can be a very nice weekend if Inter drop points, okay? So not all is done and lost. And with that, guys, I want to say, first of all, Forza the Lazio Falconer Bernabe. For those of you that know, I was thinking about him today. Uh, I just laughed so much about that story. If you don't know it, go look it up. And as always, guys, Forza Napoli sempre, okay? Always do not lose faith, okay? Forza Juve as well for tomorrow. Do not crop that. Do not crop me saying Forza Juve and start making TikToks out of it, okay? I will come and I will find you. All right. Anyways, guys, with that, ciao, have a good one, and see you next time. Bye.